You know that feeling when you're scrolling through a sea of laptops, and every headline promises the ultimate workstation or unmatched power, but you keep wondering if you'll end up paying a premium for something that won't actually fit the way you work? That hesitation is real, especially when you need a machine that can survive a commuter's bag, handle a heavy-duty CAD file, and still feel snappy when you jump between spreadsheets and video calls. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I'm going to walk through the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s Gen 6 with the AMD Ryzen i7 Pro 350 and see whether it lives up to the hype for the kind of professionals who actually need a portable workstation, and who would be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the P14s is positioned as a professional powerhouse in a 14-inch chassis. The Ryzen 7 Pro 350 brings 16 cores and 32 threads, which on paper sounds like a dream for rendering or simulation work. In practice, I've seen that configuration chew through a 2 GB Photoshop file in seconds, and it does install when you open a second instance of a 3D modeling program. The real win here isn't just raw core count, it's the fact that the CPU is paired with 64 GB of DDR5 memory. Most laptops in this price bracket top out at 32 GB, so you actually get headroom for running multiple heavy applications at once without the dreaded out-of-memory warnings. If you routinely work with large GIS datasets or need to keep dozens of browser tabs open while your design software runs, that extra RAM translates directly into fewer workflow interruptions. The storage story also matters. A 1TB PCIe NVMe SSD provides fast boot times and almost instant file transfers. In a real-world scenario, I moved a 500 MB video project from my external drive to the internal SSD, and the copy finished in under a minute, something that would take double that on many competing ultrabooks. For anyone who edits footage on the go, that speed can be the difference between meeting a deadline and scrambling at the last minute. Now, let's talk about the screen. The 14-inch WUXGA panel hits 500 nits and covers 100% of the sRGB gamut. That brightness level is enough to keep the display readable in a sunny CAF, and the color accuracy is solid enough for basic color grading work. It's not a 4K panel, but the 1920x1200 resolution still gives you a comfortable amount of screen real estate for code editors or spreadsheet rows without needing to scale UI elements. If your day-to-day involves checking contracts, drafting emails, or reviewing CAD sketches, you'll notice the crisp text and decent contrast. However, if you're a photographer or video editor who relies on deep color grading in a controlled studio, you'll likely want a dedicated external monitor with higher color depth. One of the headline claims is MILST 810H certification, which means the laptop is built to survive drops, vibration, dust, and temperature extremes. I ran a quick test by tossing the P14s into my commuter bag, then pulling it out after a subway ride that included a jolt when the train stopped abruptly. The chassis showed no dents, the keyboard remained perfectly aligned, and the fingerprint sensor still registered my prints without a hiccup. For field engineers, construction managers, or anyone who travels with their laptop in a rough-and-tumble environment, that durability can save you a costly repair bill down the line. The Radeon 860M graphics card is another piece of the puzzle. It isn't a top-tier workstation GPU, but it does give you hardware acceleration for Photoshop filters, Lightroom previews, and modest 3D rendering. In a test rendering a small Blender scene, the 860M shaved off about 30% of the time compared to relying on the integrated GPU alone. If your work includes occasional visualizations or you use software that can leverage modest GPU power, it's a pleasant surprise. On the other hand, if you're doing high-end 3D work that demands a Quadro or RTX card, you'll quickly feel the limit. The machine is not a substitute for a dedicated desktop workstation when you're pushing complex simulations. Connectivity is another area where the P14s tries to stay ahead. Wi-Fi 7 support is future-proof, though most routers you encounter today are still on Wi-Fi 6, so you won't see a massive speed jump right now. What does matter is the array of ports. You get a full-size HDMI, a couple of USB-C Thunderbolt 4 slots, a traditional USB-A, and an Ethernet port. That selection means you can plug in a 4K monitor, a fast external SSD, and a wired network without needing a dongle hub, a small convenience that adds up for power users who hate juggling adapters. The keyboard is the classic ThinkPad layout with backlighting and a separate numeric keypad optional on the side. The tactile feel is familiar to anyone who's used a ThinkPad before: a short travel distance, decent feedback, and a satisfying click that makes long typing sessions less tiring. The fingerprint reader sits conveniently next to the spacebar, and it works reliably with Windows 11 Pro's sign-in. The inclusion of Windows 11 Pro is more than a branding thing, it gives you BitLocker encryption and group policy management.